the moment we've all been waiting for. The Chosen Season 6 is right around the corner, but the road to redemption, betrayal, and the ultimate sacrifice is far from easy. Will we be ready to witness Jesus' final days, his arrest, the trials, the cross? The chilling events that will unfold in this season promise to hit us harder than ever before. And with a release date that feels like an eternity away, the suspense is unbearable. But don't worry. Today we're going to break down everything we know so far, from the heart-stopping trailer to the unforgettable storylines waiting to unfold. Buckle up, because the journey to the cross begins now. Season 5 of The Chosen left us all gasping for breath. The finale wasn't just an episode, it was a gut-wrenching emotional roller coaster. We witnessed the Last Supper, the final meal Jesus shared with his disciples before the storm hit. The entire episode built toward that devastating moment, the kiss of betrayal. Judas, once a trusted disciple, now becomes the symbol of ultimate treachery. The chilling silence in the theater as the episode ended spoke volumes. Judas's kiss was more than just a moment in history. It was the breaking of something beautiful, a friendship, a ministry, and a life that would change the world forever. But what came next? The final moments left us on edge, wondering just how deep this story would go. We saw Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, wrestling with his fear, his anguish. His prayers echoed through the silence, and his visions of Abraham and Isaac, Ezekiel's valley of dry bones, and his earthly father Joseph reminded us of the weight he carried. But the weight of the world wasn't enough to stop the inevitable. The temple guards arrived, with Judas leading them to his side, and the moment he had foretold was upon them. As the final scene unfolded, Jesus' calm response to Judas, "My friend, do what you came to do," left a lasting impression. His fate was sealed. The countdown had begun. Season 6 is going to pick up from this tragic moment, taking us deeper into the drama, the heartbreak, and the unrelenting pain that follows. With the promise of exploring the Passion of Christ, the series is setting the stage for some of the most intense episodes we've ever seen. But before we dive into what's coming, let's take a closer look at what we can expect from this upcoming season. Dallas Jenkins and the team have promised that Season 6 will take us through the crucifixion in painstaking detail. This isn't just a quick retelling of events. This is the moment that will define the entire series. And from what we know, it seems like they're going to spare no detail in showcasing just how brutal and heartbreaking these final moments were. We're likely going to witness the emotional breakdown of the disciples as they realize just how far things have gone. Peter, ever the impulsive one, will likely try to defend Jesus, as we know from the Gospel of John. But what happens when he swings his sword at Malchus, one of the temple guards? We've seen glimpses of this scene in past seasons, and the anticipation is building. Jesus' calm reaction, healing Malchus's ear, will be a moment of divine mercy in the face of overwhelming aggression. But it's not just the arrest that will break us. The trials that follow will be harrowing. Jesus' silence in the face of accusations is one of the most powerful parts of the story. He doesn't defend himself. He doesn't argue. He lets the false accusations, the hatred, and the mockery roll off his shoulders. His trial before the Sanhedrin and Pilate will likely take center stage in Season 6, with the weight of his silence crushing us all. As we know, he was found guilty of blasphemy, of claiming to be the Messiah, of being a threat to the very fabric of Jewish law and Roman order. And then, the flogging. The brutal scourging. It's difficult to imagine how the series will capture just how horrifying that was. But one thing is for sure. This season will not shy away from showing us the raw, brutal reality of what Jesus endured. And as the series moves toward the crucifixion itself, we will witness the heartbreaking moment when Jesus, carrying his cross, staggers through the streets. The weight of the cross symbolizing the weight of the world's sins. The crowd's jeers, the mocking, and the shouts will be deafening. But what we'll see in this moment is not just the physical pain, but the emotional and spiritual anguish. Jesus knows what he must do, and he does it willingly. By the time we get to the cross, we'll be on the edge of our seats, holding our breath. Season 6 will not just be a recounting of these events. It will immerse us in the pain, the sacrifice, and the love that came with it. As the arrest of Jesus begins to unfold in The Chosen Season 6, we're not just walking with him to the cross, but we're following a story of betrayal, injustice, and heartache. This is where the passion truly sets in, not just in the physical torment that Jesus will endure, but in the painful emotional journey of the people around him. Let's start with Peter, who, just moments ago, was ready to fight for Jesus. But as Jesus is seized by the temple guards, Peter's bravado quickly turns into fear. The sword he once used to defend Jesus now becomes a distant memory. In the Gospel of John, Peter tries to stop the arrest by cutting off the ear of Malchus, one of the servant soldiers, in a desperate attempt to defend his Lord. But Jesus' reaction is not what Peter expects. He heals Malchus's ear and tells Peter that those who live by the sword will die by the sword. In that moment, Peter's faith is shaken, and it's the beginning of his unraveling. Season 6 is sure to show us this struggle, with Peter's emotions moving from panic to confusion and then to deep, unbearable guilt. The following scenes will leave us breathless as Peter, despite his best intentions, denies Jesus 3 times. The pain of watching Peter's denial unfold will be unbearable, especially after all that Jesus had done for him. Jesus had trusted Peter, and yet, in his hour of need, Peter chose to save himself instead of his Lord. It's one of the most heartbreaking betrayals in the Gospels, and the series is poised to depict it in a way that will resonate with anyone who's ever faced their own moments of weakness. As Peter denies Jesus for the 3rd time, the cock crows, and he looks up to see Jesus, who is already suffering at the hands of his captors. The guilt and shame that Peter feels will surely weigh heavily on his character in Season 6, and we, as the audience, will be right there with him, feeling every ounce of his sorrow. But it's not just Peter who faces intense struggles. After his arrest, Jesus is taken to the high priest Caiaphas' house, where he faces an illegal trial. It's a cruel mockery of justice, and it's in these moments where we see Jesus' silence become a powerful act of submission. The accusations against him range from blasphemy to sorcery, but Jesus says very little in his defense. His silence speaks volumes. It is an act of obedience to God's plan, despite the injustice he is enduring. His refusal to fight back, to speak in his own defense, is an incredible contrast to the false accusations hurled against him. This is where the tone of the season will shift. It will no longer be about miracles or teachings. It will be about suffering, pain, and ultimate sacrifice. In Season 6, the trial of Jesus will feel like a slow descent into darkness, where each moment grows heavier than the last. His captors mock him, slap him, and accuse him without any evidence. Jesus' response is almost eerie in its calmness, but that's silence. His willingness to endure the accusations will leave the audience in stunned silence. What would it feel like to stand before a judge who accuses you of things you never did, knowing you could speak up but choosing not to? That is what Jesus faces in his trial, and it's where we start to feel the enormity of his sacrifice. But the trials don't end there. Jesus will eventually be brought before Pilate, the Roman governor, to be tried for claiming to be the king of the Jews. Pilate, caught between political pressure and his own curiosity, seems reluctant to condemn Jesus. But the crowd, manipulated by the religious leaders, demands his crucifixion. The choice between releasing Jesus or Barabbas, a notorious criminal, will weigh heavily on Pilate, and his decision will echo through history. It's a moment where the choice for justice seems possible, but the will of the crowd takes precedence. It's in these moments that we will witness the depth of human weakness. Pilate's struggle, Peter's denial, and the crowd's demand for blood will all lead to the same conclusion. Jesus will be sentenced to die. But even though Pilate washes his hands of the decision, the weight of what's about to happen cannot be avoided. It's here, in the chaos and confusion of human decision-making, that we see how powerless mankind is in the face of God's divine plan. The drama builds as we see Pilate try to distance himself from the decision, but it is clear. The crucifixion is coming, and nothing can stop it. The emotional tension will be unbearable as we approach the flogging, the next step in the brutal journey. It is here where the chosen will take us into the depths of Jesus' suffering. The physical pain of being whipped, the humiliation of being beaten, will be hard to watch. It is the first step toward his final hours, where his body will be torn apart by Roman soldiers. And yet, his heart will remain steadfast in love. In this section of the story, we see not just Jesus' suffering, but the world's cruelty. We see what happens when injustice and hate take control, and we witness the stark contrast of Jesus' love and forgiveness in the face of it all. Each scene in Season 6 builds toward the climax of his crucifixion. The betrayal, the denial, the trial, and the beatings all lead to the most heartbreaking and transformative moment in history, the death of Jesus Christ. As we move through these events, it's impossible not to feel a deep, raw connection to the story unfolding. The Chosen will immerse us in the pain, the silence, and the betrayal that leads to the cross, and with each passing moment, we'll be holding our breath, knowing that the end of the road is just ahead. As The Chosen Season 6 continues to unfold, the events leading up to the crucifixion become increasingly intense, capturing every ounce of Jesus' physical and emotional torment. After the cruel trials and betrayals, Jesus is condemned, and now the final chapters of his journey begin, the most brutal part of his sacrifice. This is not a story for the faint-hearted. It's the raw, unfiltered depiction of what it cost Jesus to redeem humanity. After his trial before Pilate, where we see the reluctant governor wash his hands of the decision, the scene shifts to the next step in the Roman punishment process, flogging. The series is sure to take us into this painful and often overlooked part of Jesus' suffering. Roman flogging was a brutal form of punishment that involved whipping the victim with a scourge, leather straps embedded with metal or bone designed to tear into flesh with every strike. It was not just a physical assault, it was a form of psychological terror. Those who were flogged often died from the wounds before reaching the cross. The anticipation of the flogging scene in The Chosen will leave viewers unsettled. Watching Jesus, the Son of God, who healed the sick and raised the dead, endure such a vicious beating will force us to confront the immense cost of our salvation. Every lash will feel like a strike against humanity's sin, and as the blood pours from his body, it will symbolize the weight of the world's transgressions. This scene will be gut-wrenching, yet necessary to fully grasp the depths of his sacrifice. But it's not just the physical pain that The Chosen will explore. It will also delve into the emotional and spiritual agony Jesus must have faced as he endured the suffering, knowing he was doing it for a world that would mock, deny, and ultimately reject him. His face will be bloodied, his body broken, but his eyes will remain focused on his mission to redeem the lost. Even as the soldiers jeer and mock him, there is a sense of divine purpose that radiates from him, a love that surpasses all understanding. As the flogging ends, Jesus' journey to the cross begins. The soldiers, now done with their cruel sport, force him to carry his own cross through the streets of Jerusalem, a humiliating public spectacle. It is here, in the midst of the jeers and shouts from the crowd, that we see the full extent of Jesus' physical weakness. The cross, which would symbolize both suffering and salvation, becomes a burden too heavy for even him to bear alone. And as he stumbles, the weight of the cross pressing down on him, we are reminded that Jesus was not only fully divine, but fully human. His body could feel pain, fatigue, and the overwhelming weight of the mission he had chosen to take on. It's in this moment of frailty that we see the depth of Jesus' humanity. He is a man who is about to face the most excruciating death possible, and yet he continues on. He could have called down legions of angels to deliver him, but he didn't. His love for humanity was stronger than his own physical suffering. The Chosen will certainly emphasize this, showing us the internal struggle Jesus must have faced. His body giving into exhaustion, his spirit steeled by his unwavering commitment to God's will. As he carries the cross, we can expect the scene to show how deeply the streets of Jerusalem are filled with tension. The Roman soldiers marching behind him, the taunting crowd ahead, the women who weep for him. Each face in the crowd represents a different aspect of humanity's reaction to Jesus. Some are indifferent, others mock, and a few mourn. These moments will be woven with moments of tenderness and sorrow, reminding us that there were those who loved him, even in his darkest hours. When Jesus falls under the weight of the cross, there will be a stark, painful realization. This isn't just a physical fall, it is a reflection of the world's brokenness. And when Simon of Cyrene is forced to help Jesus carry the cross, it will be a poignant reminder of how Jesus' burden is shared, even if just for a moment, by another. Simon's reluctant involvement in this part of Jesus' journey will serve as a metaphor for how we all are called to take up our own crosses in our lives, though we, like Simon, may not always feel ready. As Jesus finally arrives at Golgotha, the place of the skull, the tension reaches its peak. The anticipation of what will come next is almost unbearable. The crucifixion is not just a death, it is a painful spectacle designed to humiliate, torture, and destroy. As the soldiers stretch out Jesus' arms and drive nails through his hands and feet, every viewer will feel the agony. The sounds of the hammer striking the nails will echo in our minds, a chilling reminder of the brutality of this execution. The Chosen will leave no stone unturned in its portrayal of this pivotal moment. But even in the midst of this suffering, Jesus does not respond with hate. Instead, he speaks words of forgiveness. "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." These words will pierce through the darkness of the crucifixion. In the face of unbearable pain, Jesus' compassion and mercy shine through. This is where the emotional core of Season 6 will truly strike. The realization that Jesus is not just dying for a world that is lost in sin, but for those who actively reject him. This moment encapsulates the true essence of his sacrifice: love that defies logic, grace that surpasses understanding. As the crucifixion continues, the Chosen will likely show us the mockery that Jesus endures from the onlookers, those who jeer at him, the religious leaders who mock his claims, and even the criminals hanging beside him. It's here, in these final hours, that Jesus' heart is fully revealed. He speaks to one of the criminals, offering him grace and assuring him that he will be with Jesus in paradise. This final act of kindness, even in the face of death, will be one of the most powerful moments of the series. The pain is unbearable, the silence is deafening, and as Jesus breathes his last breath, we are left with the question, why did he do it? Why endure all of this suffering? The answer is simple yet profound: love. Jesus died not for the righteous, but for the sinners, for those who would deny him, betray him, and abandon him. And as he dies, the veil of the temple is torn in two, signaling that the separation between God and man is no more. The work is finished, redemption is complete. In this section of The Chosen Season 6, we experience not just the physical agony of the crucifixion, but the spiritual victory that is unfolding with every agonizing breath. The darkness of the scene will only be matched by the light of love and sacrifice that shines through Jesus' ultimate act of obedience to the Father. This is where the weight of the cross becomes clear, and we are left breathless, knowing that we will never be the same again. As The Chosen Season 6 brings us closer to the climactic moments of Jesus' crucifixion, the emotional and spiritual weight of his death becomes even more pronounced. In this section, we will witness the final moments of Jesus' life, filled with anguish, silence, and the fulfillment of prophecy. As his life is slowly drained away, we'll not only see the physical toll of his sacrifice, but also the cosmic significance of this moment for all of humanity. Jesus' last moments on the cross are deeply profound, filled with pain and isolation. The Chosen will undoubtedly emphasize the quiet, suffocating solitude that comes with his final hours. As he hangs there, suspended between heaven and earth, the world goes eerily silent. It's a silence that speaks volumes. Jesus, the Son of God, has been abandoned by his followers, mocked by the crowds, and rejected by the very people he came to save. His disciples have scattered, Peter has denied him, and even the Father seems distant. It's the ultimate expression of the loneliness and alienation that sin has caused between God and humanity. The darkness of the scene will deepen as Jesus speaks his final words. The Gospel of John gives us a glimpse of his last breath when he says, "It is finished." These three words, spoken with a finality that resonates through the ages, mark the completion of his mission. The Chosen will capture the deep significance of these words as Jesus, in his final act of obedience, completes the work of salvation that was foretold centuries before. But what does it mean that it is finished? In that moment, Jesus accomplishes the impossible. He bridges the gap between sinful humanity and a holy God. The sins of the world are paid for, and redemption is no longer something distant or impossible. It is now tangible. Jesus, through his death, secures forgiveness for anyone who believes in him. The theological weight of this moment cannot be overstated, and The Chosen will surely highlight the enormity of Jesus' words as they echo across time and eternity. As he dies, the earth responds to this cosmic event. The sky darkens and the ground trembles. Nature itself seems to grieve the loss of its creator. The gospel accounts tell us that the temple veil, which once separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the temple, is torn in two, from top to bottom. This is not just a symbolic gesture, it's a physical manifestation of the new reality that has been ushered in. The barrier between God and man is no longer in place. Jesus' death has opened the way for all people to come before God, unashamed and forgiven. The tearing of the veil is a deeply significant moment in The Chosen, as it represents the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy and the culmination of God's redemptive plan. In this moment, we see the shift from the Old Covenant, which required sacrifices and rituals, to the New Covenant, which is established through the blood of Jesus. No longer will the people need to rely on priests to enter the presence of God. Through Jesus, they now have direct access to the Father. This moment not only fulfills prophecy, but marks the beginning of a new era for humanity, a world where the grace of God is available to all, regardless of their past or their mistakes. While all of this is unfolding, the reactions of those around Jesus will also be a key focal point in The Chosen. We'll see the Roman centurion, who has been watching over Jesus' execution, witness the events of the crucifixion and its aftermath. His declaration, "Surely this man was the Son of God," will serve as one of the most powerful moments of the series. A hardened soldier who has seen countless executions now recognizes the divine nature of the man who just died. This moment is a testimony to the fact that Jesus' death was not just the end of a life. It was the beginning of a new understanding of who Jesus was, and the impact his death would have on the world. As the Roman soldiers continue with their duties, preparing to break the legs of those crucified to hasten death, we witness a moment that fulfills prophecy. Jesus' legs are not broken, a sign that he is the Passover lamb who is to be sacrificed without any bones being broken. Instead, a soldier pierces his side with a spear, and from his side flows water and blood. This moment, though brutal, is also deeply symbolic. The blood represents the new covenant of salvation, and the water signifies the cleansing power of baptism that would soon come for all who believe. This is the blood that washes away sin and the water that brings new life to those who would be baptized in Jesus' name. As Jesus' body hangs lifeless on the cross, the weight of the moment is felt deeply. His disciples, who have been watching from a distance, can hardly comprehend what they are seeing. The man they followed, who performed miracles and taught them the way of the kingdom of God, is now dead. The hopelessness of their situation will be palpable. The crushing weight of loss will overwhelm them, and the grief will be almost too much to bear. In this moment, the story takes on a tragic tone that The Chosen will surely accentuate. The world has just lost its savior, and it feels as if all is lost. But even in the face of such overwhelming grief, there are glimmers of hope. Jesus' death will have far-reaching consequences, but his followers are unable to see it yet. What seems like the ultimate defeat will soon turn into the greatest victory in history. But before they can witness the resurrection, they must first face the reality of his death. The Chosen will capture this tension beautifully, as it builds the emotional weight of loss, while also hinting at the light that will soon shine through the darkness.